Hey guys, so I've had some family and friends ask me about some of the flies that I tie, and so I've decided to start a little video series where I highlight some of the flies that I tie, and I'll go through and show you how to do it. The first fly that I've got for today is a fly that I call the Curveball Caddis. I name my flies baseball-related names just because I'm a big baseball fan, and kind of goes with the cheesy theme of my Three Strikes Fly Instagram handle. So this Curveball Caddis is probably my top producing nymph as far as just sheer numbers of fish, and so it's a pretty simple tie. It's just a caddis nymph pattern. I'll be tying it today. The hook that I've used is a TMC 2487 in size 14. You can tie this fly anywhere from a 10 if you're trying to mimic potentially some October caddis, all the way up to a 16. I tend to find that the size 14 is just the best size for me. I can fish it under a dry fly with a dry dropper rig during the caddis fly hatch in October here that I have in Southern Oregon. And I can also fish it in a tandem nymph rig. It's just a pretty versatile pattern. Pretty simple tie, so we'll go through it, and I'm just kind of going to call this series Call to the Bug Pen, sticking with that cheesy name of my Three Strikes Fly handle. So here we go. The thread I'll be using today is just black Phoebus 6/0. I like the 6/0 for the durability, and I don't need to worry too much about bulk on the amount of thread that I'm using on this fly pattern. And also got a 3/32 tungsten black bead, which will be the head of this fly. And so we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to tie in my my black thread, and you can just start it anywhere on the fly. Just kind of get the thread started. I'm going to tie it back to the point that I'm going to start my wire, and I'm using this just as a kind of an indicator for where I want that wire to be. What I'm going to be using is some silver small ultra wire. This is going to provide the ribbing for the fly once we tie that in. So here's my wire right here, and I'm just going to tie that in, starting kind of at the midpoint of the fly, just by the point of the hook. And wrap it back all the way to my starting point. Again, this fly is going to create a little bit of thread bulk, but it'll be covered up by the dubbing that I use for the body. So we'll tie that in, get that all secure. Just leave that there like that. For this fly, I use a small wing case, and for me, what I find works best is this computer packing paper. I like it because it provides a ribbed look, which almost on a dry fly looks like a wing, but then also it can mimic the caddis shuck in the nymph stage. You could use any real plastic material or wing material that somebody would use on dry flies, or you could also even just go without this entirely and just use the wire for the ribbing, because I don't think that it would necessarily negatively impact how this fly fishes, but I like it for the realistic look of the caddis shuck. So I've cut off a small strip right here. You can see that there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie that into the fly as well, right over where I tied my wire. I'm going to wrap that in. And I like to start it pretty high up on the fly because it just adds that extra durability. This fly is going to have a fair amount of dubbing on it, and the dubbing can create some durability issues, especially if it gets wet and you're fishing it quite a bit. You can use a number of different colors on this fly. I typically tie it anywhere from burnt orange to green to purple. Those are kind of my three primary colors, with my favorite being this burnt orange look. And so for that I use Spirit River Bright Blend for the dubbing. And this is going to make up the bulk of the body of the fly. So we'll wrap back to our starting point once I've got my dubbing out. You don't have to use much. I think that people tend to use more dubbing than is necessary. You really don't need a whole lot in most fly patterns. So start that back here. I'm going to wrap this in, moving my way back up to toward the front of the fly, like that. Now what I do is I take my shuck that I've tied in, pull it forward over the top of the fly. This is going to kind of create that wing case that I talked about. And then I tie that in right here. And I do the same thing with that wire. Forward, kind of creating nice even wire wraps. This kind of creates some security for the dubbing, and certainly the wing case. Once I got that wrapped up, I tie it in like that, and then cut it off. I also take that wing case, cut that off here, and kind of tidy it up with some thread wraps. That point. So really what I've done is I've tied that orange dubbing as well as the wing case and the ribbing up to just in front of the point of the hook, and then I create a little bit of bulk behind the bead of the fly by using some more of that bright blend, but I use black to create that head of the fly, and I use this color in conjunction with any of the other body colors that I talked about, being the green or the purple, and in this case the burnt orange. So I take some of that black dubbing, I start small, and if I decide that I want a little bit more bulk at the head, I'll tie in some more. And with that black thread I can really wrap it in good, because I'm not creating color contrast, which is why I use the black. Got a little bit more dubbing to add here. Tie in the head there. And what I do is I just take some of those strands that really stick out off this fly. I just take and I cut the thread just to tidy it up. So that's basically the fly. Do a little whip finish here. Trim it off, and then what I will do at the end is I'll add a tiny little drop of some head cement just to really secure it. Take a look, and I've got some strands that stick out a little bit. It's not really a big deal if you leave those or not. But that's basically the fly pattern right there. So again, I call this the Curveball Caddis. I really like that wing shuck look on the back here. And like I said, this is probably my top producing fly as far as nymphs that I fish, and you can fish it under a dry dropper. Size 14 tends to work the best for me, but you can tie it anywhere from a 10 to a 16 probably. So there it is, the Curveball Caddis in burnt orange. Give it a try, especially if you fish rivers that have decent caddis hatches, whether it's October caddis or Mother's Day caddis or any of those patterns, and it should produce pretty well for you. All right, thanks for watching.